Good lady from District 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate against the bill.
Have the floor.
Thank you. While I appreciate the increase in the number of family members whose ballots can be carried in this version, I think the core problems remain here in the original version, which is, well, most saliently, that it's still a felony. I feel pretty strongly that only actual bad behavior should be felonies in Idaho. This is making good behavior a felony. I feel like, not everybody scours our criminal codes. In fact, nobody scours our criminal codes. Most people go through their life on kind of a gut feeling of, they know what's bad, they know what they shouldn't be doing, and they know those things are probably illegal. And those are the things that should be felonies. Things like punching someone in the face, or robbing them, or embezzling, or driving past the speed limit drunk. I mean, things that kind of everybody knows are bad things, I think are the things we should be making felonies. When your elderly neighbor who can't drive asks you to drop off her absentee ballot for her at the county voting office, and you do it for her, most people would say that's a good deed. Most people would say that was actually helpful. You just helped somebody vote who had a hard time getting out. Maybe it was close to election day. They were worried about whether the mails would deliver it in time. And to make that a felony really feels at odds with what our criminal justice system should be all about. We shouldn't, I don't even think it should be a misdemeanor, but it sure as heck shouldn't be a felony. We should not be taking completely innocent behavior that is benign and actually in many cases helpful and making that at the most serious level of our penal code. Now, one thing, if you're really worried about ballot fraud, and we always hear these horror stories about the thing that happened in North Carolina, maybe what you should do is make it a felony to not return a ballot after being entrusted to do so. That might make sense. That's something that everybody would know would be bad. If your neighbor says, here's my ballot, can you drop it off for me, and instead you go throw it in the trash, that ought to be a felony. But if you actually take it and faithfully deliver it as they ask you to, why that should be a felony is beyond me. And I understand there's the carve out for family members, but we still have the problem that a lot of these folks may not have family members to drop them off for them. And for a lot of people, it may make more sense for them to have a trusted caregiver or a neighbor or a friend drop it off, and it's their ballot. If this is the person they trust and this is the way they want their ballot delivered, then I think we should respect their decision to do so and not make that decision a felony. And this is just so overbroad. I mean, I have a lady who helps me sometimes when I'm working full time, but this lady often will bring in my mail for me. And she would be a felon under this if my mail should happen to contain my absentee ballot that day. This so over-criminalizes completely innocent behavior. I think it's really the opposite of what the Idaho legislature should be about. We should be a body that respects freedom and choice and does not criminalize completely innocent and benign behavior. I did distribute something to you. My initial concern when this came around last time, because in my own experience, as I said, I've done this. I've found the elderly and I found the disabled who wanted me to drop off their ballots, and I did. So that's who I was thinking, and I think those people will be adversely affected. But I did hand around something to you all that reflects that a very, very similar bill was struck down as illegal in Montana, and there's one that's actually undergoing litigation in Arizona right now. And it was struck down actually, and I don't know that everybody cares whether it's legal or not, or will be struck down. But the reason I handed this around is because there's another group that I think is going to be really adversely impacted by this, and that is tribes. Native, and that was the grounds on which it was struck down in Montana, because the court found that it would have an undue impact on suppressing the votes of people living in native tribal lands. Native Americans often have less reliable mail service on these tribal lands. They often have to travel a long distance to either a polling place or to a post office. And it's very common in reservations and tribal lands for people to pick up and drop off each other's mail, just as a favor, for neighbors and friends and distant cousins. I mean, people who may not meet the close level of consanguinity defined as family in this section. So I would really hate for us to be taking action that just needlessly suppresses the voting rights of people on tribal lands. And I think that exposes this bill to legal challenges. So for all of these reasons, I think this is a very un-Idahoan approach to voting, and I hope you will give it your red light.